Welcome back everyone, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about your risks in the follow through and release to help you guys have a better understanding of what you need to be doing to create more speed and consistency with less effort. I'll be explaining what your wrist should be doing specifically in the follow through, some common issues and how to fix them, and then some drills or exercises that'll help you in your next practice. I've had so many questions about this topic and whether or not you should be rolling your wrists or you shouldn't be rolling your wrists, you should be cupping your lead wrist, keeping it stable, you're just using your body, all kinds of questions like this. So to give you guys full clarity, I'm going to be using a tool that I've used in a past video called Precision Impact. And this tool is really great. It'll give you the exact feel that you need in order for you to move your wrist correctly and to create more speed with less effort. So be sure to watch this entire video because everything that I talk about relates to each other. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button. And if you are a new viewer to my channel, please subscribe because it really helps me to create more videos like this for you guys. Now let's get started. All right, so since we're talking about the wrists and the follow through, again, we have to stress the importance of how you're holding it or how you're holding the grip specifically. And what I mean by holding it, it's like where you're placing the grip in your palm or your hand. So we'll start with the lead hand first, and then I'll kind of explain the key points for the trail hand. But if you look closely for the trail hand, most people would actually grip the club like too close to the base of their palm or like too deep into their palm. So they'll kind of grip it like this. You see that the fingers are really wrapped around quite excessively. And when you grip it like this, it doesn't give your wrist a lot of mobility. It either only allows you to kind of excessively roll the club or your wrist through impact, or you're gonna flip it or kind of move the club to the inside or kind of to the left of your hands in the follow through. So the key difference here is that you have to ensure that the meat of your palm is placed like directly on top of the handle. Okay, so when I have that meaty part on top and I grip it more kind of in the fingers like that, you should be able to hold the club up just with one finger with that meaty part on top of the grip like that. Okay, so that's how you know you've gotten close to gripping it correct. The reason why this is so important is because when you grip it this way, grip it in the fingers and have that meat on top, it's really easy to kind of move the club kind of upwards as opposed to only kind of flipping it or rolling it. So you'll have more kind of a strength to kind of push that grip down and move the club up kind of this way. Okay, and that's a really important ability in your follow through in order for you to like rehinge the club and go through the shot correctly. Okay, that's the one key point about how you're gripping it with the lead hand. So now with the trail hand, again, it's kind of the same thing. You don't want to grip it obviously too much or too deep into the palm, okay, and kind of grip it like a fist here. That'll again make it really difficult to move the club upwards. It's going to promote you to want to roll it or like again just kind of flip it across to the left of your hands. Just like the lead hand, we want to grip it more so in the base of the fingers, okay, and you can kind of see how my fingers are spread out a little bit. They're not like gripped straight across the hand. You can see that they're gripped a little bit on an angle so that when I hold on to it from the front view, you can notice how the forefinger of my trail hand is actually appearing longer than my thumb. And when this happens, I actually feel some pressure. So if you look at the first joint of my forefinger here, that point here actually has to have pressure on the grip. So you can see that there's pressure kind of at, if I were to look at the front of the grip, that pressure is kind of like at 1 o'clock, okay, on your grip. And that'll actually help you kind of maneuver the club in the downswing and give you a bit more feel throughout the swing as well. But if you can grip it like this in your fingers, then again, it'll be really easy for you to maneuver your wrist correctly to kind of turn it over enough, but then also rehinge the club upwards in the follow through. Okay, so make sure that you have the grip in these positions in your hands because it'll make your life much easier and promote the right things to happen. All right, now that you guys have a good understanding of the right starting point with the grip to allow you to do things properly in the follow through, I'm gonna pull up a swing of John Ram from a very unique view, and you can really see his wrists and forearms work just post impact. You can see just as he's striking it, you'll see that lead wrist is really coming in with more flex. That means that the lead wrist is kind of a lot more bowed. It doesn't come in with an extension at all. So you can see that the lead wrist comes into the impact with flex. And then just through impact, you can really see how his forearms kind of turn over a little bit. So his trail forearm is kind of pronating and his lead forearm is kind of supinating a little bit. And that's allowing the club to release past his hand. It's allowing his arms to straighten out completely. And then further along into the follow through, he won't continue to roll the forearms. Okay, that's the first thing a lot of people kind of think that's wrong. But you want to ensure that you don't excessively roll it to the point where the back of your knuckles obviously face down to the ground, or even the club face kind of turns down towards the ground. You can kind of see after I've rolled it over after a certain point, my knuckles of my lead hand are down, club face is also angled down. Okay, so this is excessive amounts of rolling, okay? But with John Ram, you can see when he goes through it, he does roll it up to a certain point before his lead wrist actually goes back into extension. So it actually comes through and then cups back to where the palm of his lead hand faces away from him, and the knuckles of his lead hand actually face more towards him. That's the big key difference here, is a lot of people also think that you've got to keep your forearms completely stable, like you don't want to have any forearm rotation. That is also incorrect, okay? We've measured thousands of players. It's all recorded. There's all the data. So there's no good ball striker that hits at any distance that has zero amounts of forearm rotation, okay? You need to have some amount of forearm rotation in there. That's a key movement for speed. So you guys have now been aware of two things. That one, the forearms will both kind of turn over up to a certain degree, okay? And then after a certain point, the lead wrist will move back into extension, okay? So it'll start to cup again. It won't continue to roll over like this where the knuckles are down. So there's another view that I'll show up on the screen. It's more from the side view for a lot of pros, but you can see them as they go through it as well. They will all be kind of close to this point here through impact, okay? You'll never see anyone rolling it like this through impact, or kind of like this, flipping it, okay? Now flipping, just so you guys know, my definition of flipping is if you were to hold your hands out here, flipping is when your wrists kind of move side to side. So your lead wrist goes into excessive amounts of extension, okay, and trail wrist goes into excessive amounts of flex. Okay, so it's this motion right here. People get confused about this motion. You can see how my forearms are kind of turning over. Yes, this would be considered to most people as like rolling, okay? But it's definitely not a flip, okay? A flip to me is this motion. You can see the difference there. So now, when looking at it from the side view, when a player flips the club, what happens is that that club head moves to the left of the hands. You can kind of see when I add that really excessive amount of extension and flex in my wrist, the club kind of swings to the left of my hands stay out to the right. Or a flip would be if you were to do the same thing, you can see the hands kind of stay back, the shaft leaning much more backwards through impact. That kind of also would cause the club to really turn over to the left side or get left of the hands quickly in the follow through. Okay, so when you go through impact, right, there has to be some amount of that pronation and supination, okay? And up to a point where the toe of the club is kind of pointing more straight up to the sky. Now, if someone is excessively rolling the forearms, then you can kind of see as I roll it even more, right? You can see the blade of the face is pointing more to the ground. At this point, if you are here, then that means you are excessively rolling it to this point. Most people also feel or think that on the way through, you've got to hold the face stable, which is a good feel for a lot of people, but that would suggest that you're not rolling your forearms at all. And that would encourage a little bit more rotation to get around you. And all those things are great, but it'll be good for players that have already rolled the hands excessively. So when a player goes through impact and they feel like they're not rolling their forearms at all, and the face doesn't turn over, the face would kind of typically look, or the blade of the face would look more like it's pointing to the sky. So we don't literally want this to happen either, okay? Not literally. If, again, you were rolling it excessively like this, and you try to feel there's more body rotation and there's not so much rolling in your forearms, then all that'll do is that'll just help to slow down the rate at which you're turning your forearms already, okay? But it won't completely eliminate it. So if you're rolling it like this, face is down, and you feel like the forearms don't roll over and the face stays a bit more stable, in reality, you're probably going to end up closer to that point that I mentioned earlier where the toe is up, kind of closer to the right amount of forearm rotation at this point here. That idea, or that idea of the modern release, is for players that have already excessively rolled their wrist through impact and gets them kind of closer to the right rate of rotation in their forearms instead. So this is the precision impact device, and it fits on your trail hand, and it only allows you to move your wrist in a certain way, and when you take it back, it'll actually lock your wrist in a certain position so that when you go through the shot, it also helps to manipulate what your lead wrist does. So it really gives you the exact feel that you would need for this. So it actually forces you to have to use your forearms in terms of that rotation that I was talking about. It gets you to use your forearms instead of rely on your wrist to kind of flip or turn over the face excessively. So when I'm holding onto a golf club, when I take it back, you're gonna hear the device click a little bit. Okay, and that's just to kind of, it helps to set the wrist. So you can kind of see the device kind of have this gear at the back that when you take it back and you start to bend your wrist back, it holds it in that place, holds it in that position. So now when you start to come down, you cannot flip. Like I can't like flip my wrist at all. Okay, even though I'm trying to, I can't like flip the club to the side. It'll force me to kind of turn over my forearms, and you can see how it still allows you to kind of move your wrist up and down as well. You can see that range of motion there. Okay, this is why I really like it, because it doesn't just like lock your wrist in place, it gives you some mobility in certain other areas in the wrist. So when you go to hit a golf ball, you can kind of go through it and you can kind of see when I swing through, it forces my wrist to kind of move upwards this way. It keeps some extension there, and that like almost forces my lead wrist to kind of bend back in that position here. And if you want to kind of undo it, you just have to like pull this up. Okay, you can get back to a regular starting position with your wrist. If I just take a really slow swing, you can kind of see how I'm going through it. It like, I can definitely feel like it just forces me to only move my wrist in that certain way. Okay, so if I do another practice swing rehearsal, like I can't flip it. I can only like turn over my forearms a certain amount and then also raise this club, my wrist up this way. You can kind of see how that moves, right? So there's a forearm rotation and then it kind of moves my wrist up this way. Okay, so doing that will influence my lead wrist as well. So it gets it in that position where the lead wrist is bent back enough. It forces me to actually use my forearms or roll my forearms. Really, really good device here, and you can't do anything else but the correct position here. Be sure to check this device out on the website. I will leave a link to it in the description box. And if you guys have any questions, just let me know by leaving a comment down below. There's another additional drill that you can apply. All you need is a tee. When you hold the grip with your lead hand, you're just gonna place the tee right in the top corner here. So it just fits like right between like the meaty part of the forefinger and your thumb. So when you hold on to it with the precision impact device, when you go through the shot, if you are also bending everything correctly, you're not excessively rolling it, you can kind of see the tee pointing in different directions. So if you go through it correctly, you can see that that tee is pointing more so back at me, okay? If I was rolling the wrist too excessively, that tee will start to point kind of more to the left of me or more down to the floor. If I was flipping it as well, I mean, you won't be able to flip it with this on, but if you were flipping it, then it would kind of, again, point more to the side. It won't point directly back at me. So again, that's just another visual reference of ensuring that your lead wrist kind of bends back correctly. All right, thank you guys so much for watching. Now, if you have any questions about anything that I've talked about, you can leave a comment down below. Be sure to subscribe to the channel as well if you haven't already. See you guys next time.